Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an explosive edition of Change the F Up. See what I did there? Explosive, because we're talking about the most explosive director. We're talking about Michael Bay here. I'm Nate the Effing Great here, and I am going solo this week. Victory Bell has been super busy as of late, and she will more than likely be returning in July. That is the plan. That is what we've come to agree. So possibly next week, maybe week before. We'll let you guys know. But for those of you that have not gotten a chance to, go check out our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/change the F up 1776, where you get to see Victory Bell interview the very talented and extraordinary Eric Stewart. Just a fantastic interview where he talks about his voice acting, his music career, as well as a special project that is coming up this year. So definitely tune into that, and also check him out on ericstewart.com, also on his Twitter and his Facebook. You guys just it's Eric Stewart. He's awesome. He's Seto Kaiba, he's James, he's Brock. He's just absolutely one of the best, and honestly still excited that I got a chance to see him at OhanaCon. It was awesome. Alright, so again, we are talking about Michael Bay, and I figure that the best way to talk about Michael Bay is to take the top 10 things that people hate about the Michael Bay movies, put them into a little bit of a top 10 list, and also give some of my thoughts about them. So let's just not waste any time. Let's just dive right into it. Number 10, too much patriotism. I know, this is kind of a shock here, but picture this. Let's go like bit by bit here. So imagine, you're watching a romantic movie and it's just beautiful sunsets and you see American flag. Just the skies are lighting up and the sun is just sitting down, American flag, just looking so radiant and beautiful, and you see American flag. Just awesome couple, and they're just in love, and they're just getting ready for the kiss, American flag. You kind of see the problem. So, a lot of times Michael Bay really seems to think that America is awesome. How? By incorporating the armies, by incorporating the American flag, every chance that he gets. In fact, in one of his most recent movies, Transformers Age of Extinction, I know I'm skipping over the last night, but that's mainly because I haven't seen it, and it's really, really horribly reviewed, so it's hard for me to really talk about that. But in Age of Extinction, apparently, if you took every single American flag that made an appearance in that movie, it averages out to one American flag every 3 minutes. There's that many flags in there. And I get it, America rocks, America, fuck yeah. But at the same time, you can't just jam that down our throats. I mean, there's other countries in the world. At least, Transformers 2, they tried to at least incorporate that somehow. I mean, they did, United States, and then they went to Egypt. The third one, they didn't really do much of anything. I think that was just in Chicago. And then the previous one was just, again, in the United States. But again, it feels like they were more American flags that were just pointed out everywhere. Okay. Great. So I think that, yes, there's too much patriotism in there. I get it, It's awesome. It's the United States of America. But at the same time, you can kind of pull back on that a little bit. I want to watch a movie because it takes me to some place different, not just, reminder that America is awesome, which I am fully for. But at the same time, there's other countries out there that actually have the state of being awesome. So maybe tune back on the American flag deal just a little bit. And that's just not Transformers, but also a couple other movies as well. So Michael Bay needs to lay that off just a little bit. Number 9, lackluster comedy. So when I was a kid watching Transformers usually every Saturday or every afternoon after school, never in my wildest dreams did I really picture myself watching Transformer pee on a human, dogs humping each other, or a mom talking about her bush, and I'm talking about the plant, never mind. So there's a lot of very lackluster and very poorly time comedy, and this is supposed to be directed at teens. So you're basically turning Transformers into a modern-day version of Jackass. I do not see that working out at all. That is probably the worst thing that you could possibly do. So it's okay to do just a little bit of comedy here and there. I mean, I guess, Optimus Prime basically saying, how did they find out about the whole, Sam Witwicky deal? And he said, eBay. It's like, oh, okay. Well, then, okay, I guess. The awkward moments that, a little bit of me thinks it's kind of funny where Ratchet says, the line, and I quote, "The boy's pheromone levels suggest that he wants to mate with the female." It's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, well, that's a little bit awkward, but kind of funny at the same time. Maybe if they were done with two different actors. I'm just saying. But anyway, again, it's need to really time the comedy just a little bit better. And probably don't use such adolescent, very juvenile jokes, really. And again, Bumblebee peeing on a guy, okay then. And don't even get me started on the twins, because we're going to get into a big conversation about that in just a bit. Number 8. Too much product placement. Yeah, we get that you have a lot of sponsors, but do you really have to make them somehow the center point? I mean, you look at just the first Transformers alone, when Sam was running away with the Allspark, you had I think it was like a Chevrolet car or Cadillac transform, and then you had an Xbox transform, and then you had a Mountain Dew thing transform. Other movies you see, like in the centerfold, you see a Victoria's Secret bus. You see a lot of Budweiser, Bud Lights. Just too much stuff just getting jammed in there. It's like, yeah, we get it. There's all this stuff here. We know about it, but we don't have this, jammed down our throats in every single movie. But apparently in Transformers, they just decide to just throw whatever they can, whether it be fast food, beer, cars, women's wear, men's wear, you name it. It's just really weird that they put in so much product placement with this movies. It just doesn't really work. I have to remember. Okay, here we go. Number 7. Quote-unquote ruined Transformers and TMNT. This is kind of one of those deals that I'm kind of debating on right now, because on one hand, Michael Bay did in fact bring the Transformers and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to life and made them into a live-action deal. Now, nobody else decided to do that because I think they were just comfortable with just having them as either cartoons or as animations, but Michael Bay took a chance, and, hey, we finally got to see how Optimus Prime would look like. Ratchet, Megatron, oh my gosh, Megatron was just absolutely a badass. Then you look at, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you see, of course, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, you see Master Splinter, and Shredder, oh boy. And with the recent movie that they just released, I think it was Out of the Shadows, yes. They had Rocksteady and Bebop. Holy cow, it was awesome just seeing those two. And on the other hand, though, the way that they've animated some of these deals, it really does kind of agitate me just a little bit. I think that more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a bit ruined, because I get it, they're mutants, they're genetically altered because they had to go through some chemical deals, but at the same time, you don't have to make them look like, monsters. You could have at least made them look at least more presentable. I mean, gosh, you look at some of the early ones in the 80s and the 90s, they made them look exactly like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the TV shows. It worked. It was awesome. But then Michael Bay got a hold of them and decided, let's just make them more creepier, I guess you could say. I mean, they still have a bit of the same, attitude as you would expect, but at the same time, you look at how they came in, it's just like, ugh. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I really think that they could have gone in a different direction with this. Number 6, objectifies women. Now, I read a list about this, and they said objectifies women characters, but I think it more objectifies the woman as is. And this kind of goes one of two different ways. I'll talk about the negative side first and then the positive side. So, on the negative side, it definitely does seem like a lot of times Michael Bay has women as like the eye candy, as these sexy symbols in the movie. They just are there to look hot and look extravagant. I mean, Megan Fox is the best example, where she's, of course, opening the hood and she's looking at the car, talking about everything, and more people are more focused on her, I guess, her belly and her chest and everything else. And same thing we said about Transformers 2, where she was just on a motorcycle and she just looked sexy. It is pretty bad to see that. Again, you could say the same thing about the British actor in the third Transformers movie. She was kind of a little bit more there as kind of like, the eye candy, the sexy deal. But now let's move on to a little more of the positive side, where I don't think that's exactly true, because with Megan Fox, she definitely still had a little bit of smart qualities with her character in the Transformers movies. I mean, in the second one, she actually had one of the Decepticons in a box and just basically made that little Decepticon her biatch. When she played April O'Neil in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, she wasn't really there as much as eye candy, in my opinion. She was just there trying to help out the Turtles as much as she could. She was a bit more active as an action hero than I think a lot of us really like to give her credit to. I didn't really look at her and just think, oh my gosh, April O'Neil's so hot. No. It was one of those things where like, okay, she's helping out the Turtles. Totally okay with that. And up to another example, the actress in the third Transformers, she was the reason why, Megatron turned on I think it was Ensenio Prime. I think it was the third villain. Yes, I think it was Prime. Ensenio Prime. Basically said, do you really want the history books to read, that Megatron could have been the greatest, ruler in the world, but he basically turned out to be Ensenio Prime's bitch. She basically said that, and literally I'm just like, oh my gosh, she is a genius. I am loving this. It was a thing of beauty. So, the jury's out when it comes to that, so I'd like to know you guys' opinion on that. Do you think that he objectifies women characters, or do you think that that's just a load of crap? Alright, so we are on to number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, so this would be, I believe, number 5, racial stereotypes. Now, I can understand why some people are very skeptical about this. Racial stereotypes, especially with the Transformers movies, because if you look at the first one, Bernie Mac, he's just a used car dealer, and it could have been that, but no, right next door they had to add the fact that he was living with his family, and the whole deal where he just was, being that racial stereotypical African American guy, just saying, to his, him, he's like, oh man, if I had a rock, I'd bust your head, bitch. Stuff like that. Just, it is kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't know how that really, pertains to the movie, but I guess so. Or how about the call that the military guys made to try and get a hold of the U.S. Army? And of course, there's that, stereotypical Indian help service guy who's just saying like, okay, sir, I'm going to need you to calm down, and I'm going to need you to tell me your card. Would you like to, purchase a new plan? Stuff like that. It's like, seriously? And then we get into, a couple of the Transformers. One being the flat-out Asian stereotypical Transformer who had a yellow face, and of course he had the accent like this. Yeah. So there's no shots being put there. And then the worst of the worst there, the twins in Transformers 2. Oh my god, there are so many times where, it's like, oh no, this one's going to die. Oh no, this one's going to die. Oh no, this Transformer's going to die. This was one of the first few times where I was just like, I want these guys to die because they just got so annoying, and it was because they were just a stereotypical deal. They were like stereotypical African American guys, I guess. They're like, saying like, oh, we're gonna bust a cap in your ass, man, oh man, oh shit, man. Just like, it got so annoying. It's like, why are they here? It makes absolutely no sense. Number 4. Bad, cliched, and reused camera work. So, if you look at a lot of Michael Bay's movies, you'll definitely notice something very familiar there. Mainly, maybe, choppers flying above, or battleships look the same way, or a car getting destroyed the same way as a different movie. It is one of those things where it feels like they're just reusing the same camera work because they feel lazy. Now, granted, a lot of people could say, but Disney did that all the time back in the day. Well, yes, but at the same time, they always try to create some originality, try to get some kind of spin there. Where, I guess you could say, not Fox and the Hound, what is it? Robin Hood, there we go. Robin Hood is the best example because they had scenes that basically looked like the same from the Aristocats, from the Jungle Book, from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and, it was all combined in here, but they still found a way to make it, original. They tried to make it fun. Yeah, they basically combined 3 different aspects from 3 different movies and combined it into one dance scene, but so what? They still had a way to, take the focus off of that with a great story. Which, of course, goes into number 3, that there is more action and less story. So basically there's more focus on the action sequences, the explosions, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like everything that's more action-packed, everything there is just more focused on the action, the excitement, the explosions, everything there. But it is not focused on the story, and that's a problem with a lot of movies, because Transformers, the first one, best example, I would have loved to learn more about, the Autobots' history, as well as the Decepticons' history, but they kind of just brushed that off a little bit. They basically just said, like, oh, so Megatron took over our home world. We sent our only source of energy to Earth. He came, crashed, and we're here to stop him. Very little there. So, yeah, that's not exactly very good storytelling there. They could have done more with Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, where they could have probably went a little more in depth with the Fallen story instead of being so focused on reusing action. Oh, man. Because it's felt like, it's always the same, where you get maybe like 5 minutes of a little bit of a story, then 20 minutes of nothing but action, explosion and action. It gets to be too much, because the fans and the people watching the movie, they're going to get burnt out real easily. If you don't give them more time to cool off, then next thing you know, they're going to probably be just either falling asleep through the movie, or they're just going to be like, oh man, I can't keep up with this. You got to give them more time. It just doesn't work the way that, that Michael Bay wants it to. Number 2. He was a producer in a lot of the horrible horror movie remakes. I don't think I really need to say too much into this. I mean, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Quite a few of these movies were good, but at the same time, I think that it goes back to my previous point. A lot more action, very little story. It really takes away from the movie when you just have it more focused on the action or on the blood and the gore and everything like that. It just takes away so much from that movie because people want to have an interesting story to follow, and an extra perk is to see the action. It just doesn't work that way if you just continue doing nothing but action. If you do like 90% action and 10% story, that movie's going to fail. If you try to do a 50-50, a lot of people might get annoyed, but there are still some people that will actually like that. If you do maybe 60% action, 40% story, there's still a good chance that you're going to keep people along. But if you go more heavily into the action than into the story, then you're not going to do that well. It's just basic form. It's just a basic formula. And then we move on to the number one reason why people hate Michael Bay movies is that the movies are horrible but are financially successful. Over the years, I've kind of really noticed that even though a lot of people have really given negative reviews on a lot of the movies, I mean, by God, this last Transformer movie is probably being acclaimed as the worst of the entire trilogy / anthology, whatever they want to call it. And yet still a lot of people are going to see it, whether it's because of the action or whether it's because of just being a fan of the Transformer series. People who watch, the horror movie remakes, they're fans, so they kind of want to see, the blood and guts and the killing and everything. It just really is one of those things that is very understandable as to why they're financially successful, but at the same time, it feels like it's just dirty money, because you're only taking that because you're the guy that's designing. Let's just go above and beyond. Let's just make explosions. Let's do fight scenes like everywhere and blah 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 blah, stuff like that. That's how it is. But I don't want to end this on a sour note, so I will say this, that Michael Bay is definitely one of the producers for the Purge series, and I will say that is a winning formula right there, because there's a good combination of, I would say, 60, maybe 70% action, and the rest is telling the story of the Purge, of, people affected by the Purge. It's just a really good and very well done movie series, and it only got better. I mean, the first one, people were just kind of like, well, okay. The second one, people really started getting into it, and the third one, people are just absolutely astonished. And now with this fourth one that's going to be coming out, it's going to be taking a backtrack to how the Purge first came about and how it got passed and how, government decided, okay, well, this is what's going to happen, and how the new founding fathers eventually took control. So I will say that, despite a lot of the negatives that people have said about the Michael Bay movies, he's at least tried to, give us something that we've wanted. And for some parts, I'm happy of it. Like I said, the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies was actually pretty good. Mainly because, A, they got rid of Johnny Knoxville as Leonardo. B, they had two great actors to play Bebop and Rocksteady in Sheamus, WWE superstar, and Gary Anthony Williams, who is absolutely just funny comedian. And they, of course, introduced, as Stephen Amell as Casey Jones. This was just a very well done, very well thought out movie. So hopefully we'll see more in the future, and hopefully this is one of those things where people realize, oh, okay, so there is some hope left in Michael Bay. So Michael Bay, bottom line, he is going to be one of the probably more famous directors of our generation, just not for the same reasons as, say, Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or J.J. Abrams, etc., etc. So those is the top 10 reasons why I believe people hate the Michael Bay films. Would love to know your guys' thoughts. Leave us some thoughts. Leave your comments. thank you so much for joining me for this solo edition of Change the F Up. Hopefully Victory Bell will be back, because I'm sure you guys are sick and tired of hearing just me. I know that my voice can get rather annoying, but at the same time, I'm hoping that I provided you with some sort of entertainment. So we're going to wrap it up with a song from the Eric Stewart Band, and the title of the song is Lipstick and Barbed Wire. It's a really good song, and by all means, guys, go check out their albums. Go check out their music. It is just really absolutely amazing. The Eric Stewart Band is a great combination of just some country singing, some rock, very good mixed band. It is just absolutely amazing just listening to them. I gotta do a couple of cheap plugs here. Don't forget to follow Victory Bell on her Facebook fan page at VictoriBelleCosplay, which is also her Instagram as well. Be sure to also follow her on Twitter at VictoryClark04. I know that she's been talking a lot about getting a new website up, so hopefully that is getting closer and closer to being done, but we'll have to wait and see. She'll give us an update on that a little bit later on. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at NateFandGreat. Of course, Change the F Up, sister brand to the Elite Ringside Network. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Enjoy the song, and we'll talk to you next week. I'm just happy that I finally got the last of the solo podcast, done for the week. So now I just got to survive another week of probably doing this. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend.
Dressed up to wear me down, and I should be leery. There ain't no peace for the wicked. With every move I hear the sound of a knife getting twisted. Lipstick and barbed wire, black and blue, lipstick and barbed wire. The pleasure and pain of loving you. I'm obsessed when you're near me. I confess I get tightly wound. It's a relative theory. Ain't no way I should risk it, but every time you come around, I play the game I've resisted. Lipstick and barbed wire, my beating heart is black and blue. Lipstick and barbed wire, the pleasure and pain of loving you. Dressed up to wear me down, and I should be leery. Lipstick and barbed wire,